Thanks, guys. Well, good afternoon, everyone. You know, there's this magic switch in Midland, and you just flick it, and it turns to winter, and someone flicked it today because it's cold all of a sudden. But Kelly, before we start, welcome back to you as well, and Bob, welcome back. You'll have a proper introduction. We were chatting earlier, Bob, is this like your third or fourth time on campus since we were together for the Stevens? Is it third or fourth, right?
At least four.
Yeah, at least four. Yeah. Okay, just wonderful. Yeah, so Kristen's going to introduce you, but let me just welcome back you and Kelly. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Leadership Insights, a view from the Helm. So what a funny name that is. Where does that name come from? Well, this summer, a great university president passed away, Dr. James Duderstadt. He was president at Michigan, and he had a great tenure. And when he finished his run, he wrote a book called A View from the Helm. What's it like to be a leader in these strange and complex places like universities? And Dr. Stehauer thought, you know, we could put something around that same theme, and that's what we've done. In fact, this is our 9th View from the Helm, where our objective is to bring outstanding leaders to our students and faculty and staff, for them to share what their view from the Helm is, and you're going to really enjoy our guest. I'm just going to venture off just a little bit. The reason that I think Bob is such an incredible leader, not only is he smart, not only does he bring a whole different industry before the one he's in now, I've just been able to connect with him at a deeper level in terms of, as I would describe it, forgive me, Bob, there's a spiritual side to his leadership that you're going to hear quickly becomes clear on how he not only sets an agenda for an incredible company, but is able to bring people along the way. So with that, I wanted to introduce another fantastic leader on this campus, and that's LG Bright. LG's been with us for a long time now, and he has touched the heart and soul of a lot of our students, and he is one of our internal experts related to the automotive industry. And this is an academic event, and that's why I'm going to turn it over so that one of our great faculty members can put more context on this in terms of what this means as America's free enterprise university and what we're trying to bring to our students in terms of intellectual types of conversations. So LG, and we're together Thursday night here as well, LG, so I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, LG Bright.
One of the great things that we get to do in the classroom is we get to take a word like leadership. We get to take concepts and theory and make them live. So you take leadership and you can think of the great books, Atomic Habits, or 21 Irrefutable Laws, or Good to Great. And you can read about it. You can study it. And then you can bring great thought leaders, subject matter experts into the classroom, and they can talk about what it means. You can be inspired by it. But you can also take it back out to experiential activities like our internships, like our opportunities to work with great industries, including ours, automotive, or yours that might be financial or insurance or banking, and you can exhibit leadership at every fork in the road. I love it today to be part of this Leadership Insights because we've got great leadership at our university, and I get to introduce one of our great leaders, and it's just been a pleasure working with her, working for her, and being inspired by her. I want to introduce Dr. Kristen Stehauer. It's my pleasure to talk about her as the moderator for today's event. She earned her doctorate in political science and international relations at Northwestern University and has completed postgraduate work in higher education at Harvard University. Dr. Stehauer's scholarly work has focused on East-West relations during the Cold War, American foreign policy, and the unification of Germany. Her business career is focused on strategy formulation and implementation, and she's worked with large and small organizations, both domestic and global, spanning many sectors. I love it when Dr. Stehauer introduces both students and great leaders. She just has a command of language, very interesting in traveling with her. And so even though she may not be the main event today, she embodies what we're talking about in the classroom, on the campus, in our communities, and that is leadership. Please give a warm welcome for Dr. Kristen Stehauer.
Wow, thank you, LG. I'm touched by that introduction. Well, thank you all for joining us today here in the McNair Center within the Plaster Center at Northwood University, and those many joining us via live streaming online. Bob Kron is joining us for the 9th, as Kent mentioned earlier, 9th in our series where we hear from top leaders, leadership insights, a view from the Helm. He's an accomplished executive in the automotive and business sectors and currently serving as the president and chief operating officer of the Rydell Company. His leadership has significantly shaped the organization, which operates across 18 states and embodies core values of individual responsibility, commitment to excellence, and good citizenship. Principles that truly resonate with us here at Northwood University. In recognition of his extensive experience and dedication to values-driven business, Bob has recently been appointed as executive in residence at Northwood University. And we are blessed to have him here because that means we see more of him and he imparts even more knowledge and experience to our students through engaging with faculty and students and sharing insights at industry events and conducting classroom visits, particularly in our automotive marketing and management courses, as well as our automotive aftermarket management programs within our Center for Automotive and Mobility Studies. He's a graduate of the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and his diverse career trajectory spans industries, showcasing his adaptability and strategic thinking. He began his professional journey at General Mills and subsequently spent 25 years at GlaxoSmithKline, where he rose to the position of area vice president. In 2013, he transitioned to the Rydell Company, and his exemplary performance led to his promotion as president and chief operating officer in 2021. He's committed to fostering growth and innovation within the automotive industry, aligning closely with Northwood's vision of cultivating leaders who contribute to global economic and social progress. Please join me in formally welcoming Bob Kron. Well, Bob, thanks again for joining us again on campus. We are thrilled to have you here, and we have a nearly full house here at the Plaster Center and many joining us online. Looking forward to learn from you today.
It's great to be here. I love it here.
So our students have submitted questions that we'll be going through today, and so we look forward to covering topics that are of interest to them, and then toward the end, we'll be able to take questions from the audience and also online. So we'll see what we get. But first, here's an icebreaker style question. What was your first car?
I had a 1972 yellow Cuda with a 340 slapstick and it had a black stripe down the middle. I bought it when I was 15. And
this is before you were legal to drive then.
I needed to work on it for about a year, and I needed to fix up some Bondo, if you know what Bondo is. And so that was my first car, and I wish I would still have it.
Yeah, sounds like you started out with quite a splash there.
Yeah, people thought I was cool.
Yeah.
A yellow car.
How did it run?
Yeah, not very well.
Well, how do we start in by helping you share with the audience about the Rydell Company? And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a tremendous, I would say, often under the radar presence in the automotive industry.
By design, the Rydell Company is under the radar. And Rydell Company started in 1990. There are 5 partners who decided to form the company. And the first store we had in our group, we're retailers and in the automotive industry. And the first store was in 1954 in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And that store did very well. And the gentleman who was running that store at the time, Wes Rydell, went through a tough time. And he had some challenges and he needed to work through that, and somebody helped him. And it changed his life in his early 30s. He had some challenges with drinking. And he ended up getting some help with that. And it changed his life. And he realized that it meant a lot that somebody helped him through a difficult time. So he decided to help other people. And we formed our company back then. He said, well, I got a lot of help and I'm happy. And he realized that happiness comes from if you help other people, they're happy. And then in turn, you become happy. And he liked that feeling. So we decided to create a company that created a feeling. And it started with a vision that says, our vision is to be so effective that we're able to be helpful to others. And Wes had a lot of help, so he said, let's go help other people. And we purposely added the word so. And not often do you know what the word so is. But so means to a great extent. So we wanted to be different than any other dealership. We wanted to be the dominant dealer, and we wanted to earn customers' loyalty for life. And in turn, that has now grown to about 100 rooftops in 18 states. We have about 7,000 employees. And the unique thing about the Rydell Company is we would be the largest privately held dealership group in the country, but we're not, because we're not owned by there's 6 of us who are partners now. And what we do is we buy stores. We buy every store. Then we have a leadership program, a leadership academy. We develop leaders, not dealers. We develop leaders, and we buy a store, and we put a person in the store, and we teach them how to run it. Then they become the owner. So with our 100 rooftops, we're the largest privately held group in the United States, not by ownership, but by philosophy and belief, which I think makes it more powerful. So we really get a kick out of buying stores and putting people in those stores and teaching them how to run them and being Main Street dealers. So in that town, we're really tied to the community and the people live there. And we buy 2 to 3 stores a year. And one of the requirements we have at the Rydell Company is that it must be fun. And we have a lot of fun. But we also like to be the best. So we push ourselves. And the mission of the Rydell Company is to establish the Rydell trademark as the standard in the retail automotive industry and create opportunities for people who embrace our values and implement successfully our philosophy. And it works very well.
Yeah, clearly by many success measures.
Yeah.
And in a prior conversation, you mentioned the philosophy of not having Rydell on the branding for the locations. I think our audience would find that interesting too, because it's an extension of the philosophy.
We have a couple stores in Los Angeles that have Rydell. Our original store in Grand Forks has Rydell on it. But we want to be Main Street people. And we believe to go in the community that if we have a store in Sioux Falls, it's called Sioux Falls Ford. And we don't want to put our name on it and try to just drive things through a name. Our local brand is in the local market. So whatever town we're in, we use that name, and then we use the brand of the franchise. And it works very well. Feels good too.
Yeah. What are the major challenges in the automotive industry right now that you're facing?
Well, I think that's an important question, but I think it depends on who you ask. And I think you can really quickly in the automotive industry, in the retail world, you can come up with all kinds of reasons why there's challenges. And right now you could come up with things like interest rates and affordability for the consumer. You can talk about acquiring inventory, acquiring talent. There's all kinds of things that are challenging in life. And I think part of our philosophy is that we like to keep focus on who we are. And we know that we as dealers, we we sign personal service agreements with the factory. And in those personal service agreements, we have a sales and service agreement that says we will take great care of customers. We'll create a great guest experience with good CSI. We will drive market share and have a responsible sales effectiveness, and we'll take care of the service customers and do warranty work and take great care of customers. And so if we focus on that, then I think in life it's really important to focus on what you can control. I can't control interest rates, so I don't worry about that. That's not a challenge to me. Our challenge is to say, do we think as a leadership team about how we're going to attack a market? And we think of, if you study execution, if you want to execute on anything, there's really three things that go into it. And one of them would be your strategy, how you're going to attack something. The other thing is your operational plan. What are you going to do on a day-to-day basis? And the third thing is people. So we are very comfortable with who we choose to be, and our strategy is made up of our vision, our mission, our values, our philosophy, our brand promises, and we are very excited about who we choose to be. We want to create the feeling that we're different. So we think we're good there. That's not a challenge to us. The other challenge is you say, how are you going to operate your business? And we feel really good about that. The challenge we run into right now is the people part. And I believe that the store is going to be as good as your leader. The way we take care of the community is going to be as good as our leader. So the leader sets the tone, the culture. We call it the drum beater, the pace setter. And we work very hard. That's one of the reasons I was brought over to the Right Out company, is because of the people part. The company knew how to run the stores, and the strategy was solid. But the rate limiting factor for us was people. Because if we're going to buy stores, you can't buy stores unless you have talent. And we're not going to buy a store if we don't have the right leader in there who has the right values and is going to be a Main Street operator and take care of things. Because our leaders do things in our stores. We sell a lot of cars. But what we also do in the leadership is involved in the community. And we get excited about feeding 2,500 people in Ames, Iowa. We get excited about giving single mothers vehicles at Christmas. We're doing that in the next couple of weeks. So our leader has to have that servant mentality. And I believe leaders can be developed and groomed. I think you look at traits and so forth. But the biggest challenge we have is building. The best team wins. And whoever builds a team, it starts with leadership and the reputation they have. And I think that's true in any industry. But for us, it's probably the most important thing that we do. And as a matter of fact, Kelly Umdahl, who's here with us, we recently were so excited about this people stuff that we hired a full-time person who's in charge of talent. And if somebody comes to work for us, we want to be able to answer that question, why would you want to work for us? And we came up with employment brand promises. And if somebody works for us, we wouldn't say, well, here's your hours, here's what you're going to make, and here's what you're going to do. Our discussion with people when we say, why would you work for us, is to say, hey, well, first of all, we're going to do everything with unconditional dedication and excellence. We're going to do everything with honesty and integrity. We're going to be a champion of your lifelong learning. We're going to encourage you to make a difference. We're going to respect you as an individual, and we're going to take care of your family and your community. Kelly's job is to make those come to life. That's how serious we are about it.
I know a number of our students are thinking ahead to internships and their eventual careers. What advice would you give? What do you look for when you're interviewing and selecting somebody who has potential, who may not be there yet, but who has potential? What are you looking for, and what advice could you give them when they're interviewing?
First thing is character. You want people who have high character and values, and that's one of the great things about Northwood. I think when you go to a campus like this, it just, I'm successful in life for one reason, because I was able to be touched and surrounded by key people. Because in my younger years, I was kind of lost, a lost soul. But then when you go, I went to a place like St. Thomas, which is like Northwood, high values, and people care, and they have those, when they ask you how you're doing, they really mean it. So I think you got to connect yourself with the right people. And then I think you got to set yourself up. I use the word set for a reason. I think when I look at people, I think, what's their set? Meaning skills, experience, and traits. So when you're young and you're developing yourself, it's really important to figure out, how do I develop skills? Skilled people do better. And skills are simple. Listening skills, leadership skills, thinking skills. I have something on my desk to this day that says, teach people how to think. I ask questions like, tell me about a decision you made lately. How do you process information? How do you spend time in current reality and figure out what's really going on, come up with 2 or 3 options, work on the iceberg, drill down to the bottom and say, here's what I'm going to do. Thinking skills are critical, listening skills. Any skill you can develop along the way is important. And when you get to the second part, which is experience, I think you got to really enjoy life. And one of the things that we believe is let's create a great experience for our guests and our employees. So when you have a good experience, that shapes your beliefs. When your beliefs are shaped in the right way, it shapes the action you take in your life, and the action determines who you are. So the experience you get here at Northwood or in any internship or whatever is valuable, and you can't rush through these things. You gotta, if you want to be a car dealer, you gotta probably spend 10 years in the car industry selling cars, servicing people, doing the job, because you got to experience is a longer word because it takes time to gain real knowledge and experience. And the last thing is your traits. You got to know who you are. Self-awareness is one of the most important things you can have in life. You got to know when you're at your best and when you're at your worst. And you got to know what traits you have. And one of the best traits you can have is curiosity and determination, resilience. Most successful people are not special. I'm nothing special. But I was willing to do the work. I was determined. I was resilient. I was very curious. So I think having a set skills, experience, and traits are really important.
That's a great takeaway. And you talked about values as well. At Northwood, we say you can't be a successful business leader unless you're an ethical business leader. And we require ethics of all of our students before they graduate. Integrity is one of our code of ethics. That's coming through loud and clear as well. Could you speak to why that's important in your world? Ethics and integrity as a business person?
Well, I didn't join. I was at the drug company for 25 years, and I was asked, I've been here 13 years now, and for about 14 years before that, they tried to recruit me, and I said, no, I'm not a car guy, and I didn't want to do it. I was a big shot at the drug company, and I thought I got a great job, and I had an impression of the car industry, and I worked for a big drug company, and when I resigned from the drug company, I said I can no longer surrender my values. And I found a company that happens to sell cars that is values and integrity are coming out of their pores. And things like if you buy a car from us and you don't like it, we'll take it back. You can't buy the wrong vehicle. Relaxed shopping experience. We don't have the F&I offices where you put someone in there and force them in there to buy a deal. The Rydell company, and there's a lot of good dealers out there, don't be confused, but I saw the Rydell company that Wes started this because he wanted to help people, and the integrity behind that and how he did it, it was weird. It was kind of odd at first because in our business, the first meeting I went to, I spent 2 years going to the Rydell meeting before I committed to him, and at the beginning of every meeting, you have 300 people saying our vision, and then they pull out the values card and we talk about the values. It's every day. In our world, if we have a tough decision to make, all I do is I just go like this and I say, well, what would our values card say? Or if someone's doing something wrong, I'll say, which one of the values does that fit under? This is your leadership guide. And anytime you have an issue, people want to get in an argument about it. There's no argument about our standards. If you say, hey, let's see where that fits, and then we'll work it from there. And there's things we don't do around our company, and everything's right here. So it's a big part of who we are.
Your respect for your customers really comes through, and I've heard you refer to them as guests a couple of times. That flips the script in terms of what the relationship is. Could you share a bit more about the guest experience that you're creating and how you came to referring to those with whom you're transacting are guests?
Okay. So we're part of a super dealer group, and we have a great group of dealers we partner with. And we went to a meeting one time, and everyone was talking about AI and all this other stuff. And they came around to the Rydell group, and they said, Rydell, what do you think about this whole thing? And we said, we're just trying to answer the phone. And, if somebody calls a business, somebody's got to answer the phone. Don't give me 1 for sales, 2 for service. I want to talk to a human being who's going to say hello. So it's like you invite somebody to your house. When you invite somebody to your house and they're knocking on your door, you're going to just sit there and not invite them in. Life is pretty simple if you just break it down and say, is this a customer? Like we used to call our leads an opportunity. And I asked the question one day, when does an opportunity become a human being? Because it's a human being on the phone, and Kelly will do some mystery shopping. I called our service department the other day at 5:37 and nobody answered the phone. It didn't make me happy. If a guest is broke down at 5:37 And we have to, it's not a customer. I don't even know Google a customer. But a guest is somebody you invite in, and you're going to welcome them, and your place is going to be clean, and you're going to create a great experience. Because 30% of what we do in our business is about metal and fixing something. You have a car. If somebody wants a Silverado, they want a Silverado that runs and clean and it looks good. The 70% of what really happens in business, in our business, is the experience you create. How do you feel when you go there? And on our values card, it says our job is to exceed the expectation of our guests and maintain their loyalty for life. So you have to have that mindset. And that goes back to the leadership dynamic.
I imagine there are pretty solid metrics behind that too. You probably use standard metrics for the industry, and do you have other ones as well?
Well, Kelly would have to go through that. We have a report card, and every store has a report card. And our philosophy is based on our metrics. And we're in the middle of planning season right now for 2025. We have a report card, and we do the red, yellow, green thing. And we call it, we have 5 things we look at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is our philosophy. 1 is customer satisfaction, 2 is employee engagement, 3 is financial performance, 4 is market volume, and 5 is ongoing improvement. So we have ranges of performance for each one of those. We measure how well we treat our guests, our employees, et cetera. And then we have categories that look at it. But at the end of the day, retention's a big one, and loyalty. And so you can metric things to death, but we try to just, you can look around a store and see how happy guests are and how happy people are. And that's enough for me.
That's great. What would you say your biggest challenge has been in your career so far? The students have tough questions.
I think every life has a story, and each one of you have a story. And your life is, I just turned 61, and I had an interesting upbringing. I was raised by a waitress and a truck driver, and we didn't talk about purpose, mission, values, all that kind of stuff. My mom taught me everything I should do. My dad taught me everything I shouldn't do. And I was an athlete. I played hockey, and I luckily played hockey, and that made me competitive. That made me want to succeed, and that made me want to win. And I won a lot through my career. And eventually the challenge that happened to me was I got really bored with success. And you find yourself, I wanted to be successful for me. And I found ways to win only all the time. But it's a very shallow game when you think about success. I got really bored with success. And when they gave me a number, I could hit it. And I hit it, and I did whatever it took. I had values, but I won. And what happened is I was in a conversation at a company, and they said, when you get to a certain level in a company, you have to do things that you don't believe in. I'm like, wow, that doesn't seem right. And so we're driving for success, and I really struggled with that. And I was trying to figure out what life meant and what success meant. And I happened to meet with a gentleman who said, well, it's a simple question. If you had it all, what would that be? And I thought, well, I have a nice house, I have a cabin, I have boats, I have friends, and I realized I really had nothing at all. And what I struggled with, my challenge in life was I was successful and I was driven, but I wasn't significant in the eyes of my wife and my children and the people important to me. And when I answered the question, I told the guy I'd get back to you in a week on if I had it all, what would that look like? It took me 18 months to answer that question. And first thing I said is, what do I really believe? And I challenged myself on my faith. I went to a Catholic college, and I just really dug into my faith. And I saw a billboard one day that said, why worry when you can pray? And I started praying. Then secondly, I looked at my marriage, and unfortunately, I wasn't interested in my wife's life. She cooked dinner. I supported the family. I had an apartment in Philadelphia. I had a house in Phoenix. I was all over the place. And it's like, I really didn't know my wife after 20 years. And I said, if I had everything, I'd be interested in her life. And then I realized that with my kids, I said, I'd die for my kids. I'd jump in front of a train for them. But what I realized is I wasn't living for them. And I went, wow, what do I really have? If I had it all, I would be a role model for the vocation of marriage. I'd build self-esteem with my kids, and I wouldn't love my kids as much as they'd love me because of living for them. I figured all this stuff out, and then I resigned from the drug company, and I joined Rydell, and now I don't even feel like I work, and have never been happier. So the challenge was, if you get caught up in success, you can become very selfish. And chasing money doesn't buy happiness. What buys happiness is not the destination of the journey, but who you do it with. So I surround myself with great people.
Faith is really important. I know that from prior conversations. Could you share a bit about your faith journey and how central it is to
Yeah. I grew up
daily
as a Protestant, and I went to a Catholic college. One day I was at a hockey retreat with all my hockey buddies, and some people are probably out in the back doing some things, and there's an archbishop there, and he said, if anybody wants to talk, come on in. And I was kind of one of the guys who was always saying, let's go run around out back. And I walked in his room. I have no idea why I walked in his room. And I sat there with him for a couple hours, and he's one of my best friends in life right now. He's 82 years old. And through him, my faith has grown. I learned about, I used to always be angry at people, and I learned about forgiveness and being kind. And I've met the Pope, I've been to Rome a couple times. I have some amazing experiences because of my faith. And I'm part of a men's group. Every Friday morning at 6:45, there's 6 of us who meet. Now it's on Zoom, and we talk, we call it MOG, Men of God. And we talk every Friday about what's going on in somebody's life, and how we can be better men, how we can be better leaders. And I'm not afraid to talk about my faith, because we all believe in something. But somehow we got here, and I really love my faith, and it's an important part of my family.
And the Men of God group has been together for?
We stopped counting at 25 years, probably more like 30.
Every Friday morning for 25 years. What a support group that is, and what a journey that you've been sharing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we know you're a successful business person, and you talked about gaining that balance in your life with those key relationships. What do you do to relax? Because we know you're still a go-getter. You landed just about less than an hour before we had to go on, and you maximize what you do in life. Yeah. So is there relaxation for you, or
yes,
how do you define that?
One of the great leadership stories, and I might get it wrong, but I think it's King Henry VIII. In the middle of a war, he'd go to the garden. So I created a garden, and I have a garden oasis up in northern Minnesota of 80 acres, and trails and walks and peace. I pray for peace every day of my life. And I like to burn things. I like fires. I like to relax. I like a glass of wine. I slow down my life. And to relax, I think you got to slow down. It's interesting. Lately, I stopped watching TV unless it's a sporting event. But it's amazing what happens in a room with a fire and quiet, and how your mind just rests, and how you get more prepared for the next day. And you're not on edge, and you sleep better. And so I think relaxing is a big deal. And I love being up north.
I can understand that. Our students want to know, what is the best compliment you've ever received?
I think the word thank you. Life isn't complicated. And if you do nice things, and if you're kind, and people say thank you, that's pretty special. I think thank you and I love you are really important words. And I actually have a philosophy, and Kelly sees it all the time, that if I have to fire somebody, or if we fire someone, I say they have to thank you. And it can be done. You can fire people, and they will say thank you. And if you do it right, and normally when you fire somebody, which is not fun, they're unhappy themselves. And if you show them and find a motivational fit where they can be happier, it typically ends in my deal with a hug and a thank you. And I insist on that. But the first question before you fire them is to say, what have we done to help them? And then if you have to fire them, I think either way, a thank you it tells me that you served somebody else, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, that's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
if you could invite a famous person for dinner, who would it be?
Well, I knew this question was going to be asked, and I thought, well, it'd be really hard not to say my wife, but we go to dinner a lot. And I thought about my first daughter because she changed my life. I thought about all these things, and I thought about, part of my story is I watched my brother get killed, and we were walking to school when I was 10 years old. So I'd love to catch up with him after 50 years. But then you said, those are all great things. But there's back to my faith. I would choose Padre Pio. Padre Pio is a famous Catholic priest, and he's a saint. I didn't know anything about Padre Pio until my son's a college hockey player, and he went headfirst in the boards 2 years ago, and he's had a challenge for 2 years. And I've been in and out of the hospital twice in the last 2 years. And somebody told me about this Padre Pio guy, and he's been blessed mysteriously in many ways. And he had a lot of stuff going on, but he's done some miracles around healing. And for the last 2 years, every night, somebody in my family has prayed a healing prayer for Padre Pio for my son. And my son is doing very well. And I think it's partly because of our prayers. And so he doesn't know this yet, but he's going to get a statue of Padre Pio for our woods. But I would have dinner with Padre Pio, and I would really enjoy asking him some questions about his journey. He died in 1968, and it's a pretty interesting study if you get to know him.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would probably say, be careful. I'd say you're building a brand every day, and your brand will stick with you forever. And there's an old saying, watch your thoughts because they become your words become your action becomes your character becomes your destiny. And I think your brand starts early, as a child, as a college student, as a young employee. You have a brand, and what do you want that brand to be? And you have an influence over that. So I would be very conscious of your brand, and because it's real.
Good advice. What our students want to know, what would you like to be remembered for?
Well, I would want to be remembered for having a great family that loves each other. I would be remembered for creating an environment in my family and at work where people could accomplish their dreams. And I like to say that I get things done through other people. So I like to be a dream maker.
What are your dreams?
That my kids are happy. If you ask them that, that's what they'd say, and I work really hard at that. But I'm not afraid to insert some pain into it too. I think suffering is good. My daughter is going to grad school now. We pay for undergrad. She goes, I want to go to grad school, Dad. And I said, great, how are you going to pay for it? She kind of went, and she's paying for it. But she's very happy, but she's learning through it. So I really think part of my responsibility is, if you have children, that you should be there for them and you should prepare them for the world. And I love sitting around the dinner table with my family because we feel like we can change our world at that moment. So my dream is whatever we touch, we make it better.
Shifting gears back to the automotive industry, you had a really unique answer to the challenges. What do you see as the opportunities in the automotive industry? And not opportunities like the leads, but more, what's the potential for this industry that is adopting technology at such a rate and evolving so quickly?
Well, I think that, there's so many ways you can go on this question. I think the opportunity is that you are giving, for our business, a dealership, we're given a marketing area. And in that marketing area, how well do you serve that community? Serve them with a safe and reliable vehicle. A lot of people are getting caught up in EVs and all this kind of stuff. And from my perspective, I think there's a huge opportunity to take care of people. And if they want an EV, we'll make sure we're the best and most knowledgeable at giving them an EV. If they want a combustible engine, if they want whatever they want, we got to take care of it. And there's, we think right now there's business opportunities I can go down right now, like how do you fill up your shop and how do you do all these business things. But at the end of the day, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you have that spirit that you want to make a difference, you got to be able to look people in the eye and make them feel really good. So when somebody walks in, there's financial numbers you can put behind a guest, and I don't want to go down that path, but a guest is going to be your best word of mouth advertising. To see somebody sit in a car, and if you have an opportunity to make somebody happy, and we just watch when somebody buys a car and how they light up when they're in that car. So we can't change the world, but we can change our world one person at a time. And that's our job. And that's what I think we can do to make a difference. So I could go 100 different ways on opportunities, but I always think about that person or a community, and let's be really effective there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure does.
So.
And what changes would you like to see happen in your industry?
I think the reputation. I think it's an amazing industry. I work for the biggest food company in the world, one of the biggest drug companies in the world. And I didn't want to get in automotive, but automotive is an amazing place. You want to run a business, you got 6, 7, 8 businesses under one roof. You got a community role. I think that there's this thing about hours and retail and that kind of stuff. But when I was at the drug company, I worked long hours too, and I worked weekends. But I just think that more people would look at the automotive world and say, what a great place to be an entrepreneur and make a difference. And I think we're doing that. We're finding people now who we're doing a much better job of attracting talent. And it does work, but it takes an intentional effort. Because once you get in, it's a blast. It's a blast, and you can change something. We were with somebody the other day, and I said, well, we got to change this. And I said, matter of fact, we have to change it with the next guest. We don't have to go through HR and all these other things and come up with a committee and do a government survey and all this kind of stuff. Let's start with the next customer.
Can you share what it was that you changed?
It was regarding our F&I practices and how we go out and present to a guest. And I don't really get involved in the day-to-day operations, but I got involved in this one because somebody just wasn't doing their job, and I was there, and I said, well, let's go talk to him right now. And you can listen to all these excuses, all these challenges, but I want a sense of urgency. And if you can learn how to think and create a sense of urgency, and how you treat that guest, and you can start doing it now. So does that make sense? Okay.
It sure does. So you just alluded to that move that you made from the pharmaceutical industry into automotive. Could you share some insights as to what that transition was like between industries? What was universal that you carried from one industry to the next, and what kind of learning curve were you on as well? Because I know our students have many opportunities, and they may think that they're going down they're committing to a lifelong path in one industry, but in fact, you illustrate that you could be successful in multiple sectors.
I think it was easy and it was hard. I think the business philosophy of how you execute and having a strategy and operations and people transfers very nicely. I think leadership transfers nicely. I had to learn new language, new PBR and all this kind of stuff. And then the first thing you do is you have to earn trust and respect, because it doesn't matter what I knew. I remember one of the first meetings I went to, I said something, and the guy looked at me and said, hey, Bob, we were pretty good before you got here. When I became president, they said, Bob, anything you want to say? And I said, yeah, I was pretty good before I got here. So they both worked together, and I brought in new energy and new ideas. And in the past, it was more about, here's what you're going to do, just do it. And through my training and my development, I said, well, let's make sure people believe in it. I believe in that whole Simon Sinek thing, start with why and work your way out. I brought that in. I think that there's transferable skills that the automotive industry needed, and I think there's stuff that met in the middle. So the first couple of years, I was actually told Better if you don't talk for the first couple of years, just listen. And it was good advice, actually, because I did listen, but I hit my jabs where I could. So I think it's more about how you do it when you make that transition. But I love my experience at the drug company because I had so much training and skill development that I transferred over. But, you know, the guy who ran Ford, Alan Mulally, came from Boeing and is one of the best leaders they've ever had. So good people who are kind and firm and strong and determined are going to be good leaders wherever you put them.
And certainly bring that fresh perspective too.
Yep.
So we have some time for questions from the audience. We have a mic over here and we have some assistants. So if you have a question, we can take the mic to you. And we have a question from online. They're curious about how you develop leaders within Rydell.
Okay. We have a couple different things at Rydell. We have a program called Emerging Leaders where we find young talent. We put them through some programs. And then the core program we have something called Leadership Academy, which is about a 2-year program where people meet once a quarter. And we get groups of 6 and we sit in the room. We just had our session last week with our group. We've done 9 of these sessions and we spend a lot of time with the first session. We say, and I run it personally because it's that important. I do it with Kelly and I say, you're going to spend the first 6 months of this thing getting to know yourself. It's kind of weird, you know, saying that to people, but they do. They come back, and last week we sat down and said, tell me when you're at your best and tell me when you're at your worst. And we get really into this self-awareness because how you come across is powerful. So we have and this group, eventually I do a lot of talking, but eventually the group starts talking and they help each other. And they what I want to do is form lifelong relationships with these people as they grow up and their story unfolds. How do they go back to each other and talk and listen and learn and develop those friendships? Because in our company, we say it's friends helping friends. So we have this Leadership Academy. And then once they finish that, we'll have candid conversations and say, you know, we actually wash out about 20% of the people because you push them to a point where they just can't go anymore, which is good because you don't want them to go further and fail. So
and they self-select out then?
Yep,
or?
Yep. And we do that. We're at 18% right now. And I think that's important because people rise to their abilities. And so there's a washout phase. And we have a large number of those people who have become dealers. And that's where we pick our dealer candidates from. Some become general managers, some become other things. But so we have Leadership Academy. We also do something called the DIP meeting. We've had some special guests at our DIP meeting. And a DIP meeting means dealer improvement. We have 300 people at our DIP meetings. We do them 3 times a year, twice in Minneapolis, once in Phoenix. We have general session talks. We have workshops. We're doing that. We have other meetings. We put our stores in little pods, and we call them BOD meetings. BOD is not board of directors. It means build our destiny. And these stores get together, and they self-accountable, and they new ideas come up with different things. And you know, one of these BOD meetings, we develop the skills of our service managers, and we ask a simple question: is your shop full? And how do you know? Go walk around the shop at 4:30 and see how many cars are being worked on versus people packing up and going home. That in turn led to a project with these BODs, developed the leadership of our service managers, and now our growth is at about 65% because of that. So we have a lot of things we do. Our discussions are a lot of questions, not a lot of telling what to do. So our culture is a learning culture. And, you know, there's sometimes if the house is burned down, you got to tell them to run that way. But we like to really encourage questions and thoughts and get people to speak their mind, because that's one of our brand promises: encourage you to make a difference and respect you as an individual. So you have to meet people where they're at and then take them on a journey. And I think we're getting better at that.
Sounds like you are. Do we have any questions in the room here?
Hi. So you mentioned friends helping friends and success coming from surrounding yourself with good people. So I was wondering if you had any advice on surrounding yourself with good people and ensuring that there's good people around you. So
Part of that is self-awareness, I think. But I think that I have a friend I think of, and I think he was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I knew he was. So you just got to have that self-discipline to choose who you want to be, and then surround yourself with those people, because there's a lot of good people who aren't good for it. You know, and Kelly and I just talked about this at lunch today. We said, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to probably have 3 or 4 really good friends who are like-minded. But then when you go and you pick a job after you graduate from college, don't ask how much you're going to make, because if you're good enough, you're going to make decent money. You got to say, tell me about your culture, tell me about your values, and meet as many people as you can. Because I think there's some judgment inside of you that says, you know, is this a good person? You got to ask that question. And so I don't really know how to answer that, except saying, pay attention and look at people. When you have a dream, right, Stephen? Right? All right. And study that dream and say, what's it going to take, and who do I need to be? And then I study leadership. I listen to, when I see coaches, or I watch them, then I pay attention to my behavior, and you have a chance to be you and grow up into something pretty special. But it's going to take friends who are going to be honest with you. One thing I like about Kelly that I don't like about Kelly is that she always gives me good feedback. So who's developmental buddy and says, hey man, you can't be doing that. You know, those are the friends I have in my life. And I've had the friends that say, come on, let's go do this. And you got to be careful with that. So I don't know, it's judgment. Judgment is something, you got to ask yourself the question, right? Just don't do what's fun. I mean, I don't know if I'm helping you, but yeah, so.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Colin.
Hi. What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear?
Your biggest fear.
My biggest fear. Oh, never asked that question. I don't really have a lot of fear. I think that you know, right away when you said it, I went to my family. You know, I'm a protector. So my biggest fear, I guess, in my professional life is I have a fear that people will miss out on an opportunity. And this year we had 3 people. You know, when you went through COVID, things were really easy in the automotive industries. Cars sold, it was transactions. Things just moved fast. And then people, you know, bad happens really fast. If you have bad habits, you crash really fast. And good takes a long time. And we had people who couldn't come out of COVID. They couldn't come, the discipline. My fear is that people don't value and appreciate discipline. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is your best friend. And you have to have good habits. And if you have good habits, you're consistent. If you're consistent, you can be as good as anybody, better than most. So my fear is that a human being who has all the potential in the world doesn't recognize who they can be. And we've had to deal with 3 or 4 situations this time where we had to say, you know, one guy was right there and he had his dream. He was going to be picked for a store. He threw it away. So I don't know if it's a fear, but it is a fear that people lose sight of the gifts they're blessed with. And that's sad to me, but it's a fear because it's so hard to find a good person. We have a person now that I got to be careful what I say, but we have a person now we're working with. And I just said, you got to figure it out. I'm not going to give up. Maybe my fear is giving up on people. I hate giving up on people, but sometimes you have to. Human potential is real, but you got to grab onto it. And that's why you got to surround yourself with good people, because they will save you, right? So, I don't know. I'm not afraid of much. You a little bit.
We have another question over here, I think. Yeah.
Just kidding. I like you.
So if you could go back and talk to your younger self about like getting into the industry or getting like older, what advice would you give yourself?
I don't know. I would there's so many lessons, but I you know, it's like, do I have any regrets of what I've done? No, because then I wouldn't be who I am. So I believe in suffering. I really think suffering is one of the best things for a human being. And if you embrace that, so I suffered by staying with something too long. but I learned a lot about myself by doing that. So I think that what I'd say to my younger self is that pay attention to who you are versus who you want to be. Don't be afraid to fail. And I think that one thing that jumps out in my mind is make quicker decisions. When you sit on things that, if I would have probably left my other job sooner, I struggle with this question because I wish I would have joined the automotive industry earlier, but then I would have missed out on a lot of lessons learned. So I think that walk in the garden to always reflect on your where you're at in life and where you want to be is really important. So I'd say I would have reflected more. I did more versus slowing down. I would have slowed down a little bit.
We have a question from online. What would you like your impact to be as executive in residence at Northwood University?
I would like people to not think about what job they're going to get, but what kind of life they want. Because you're going to get a job, and I think right away out of college and even in college, you got to start choosing what kind of life you want, who you're going to surround yourself with. I'd be less concerned about the job. I'd be more concerned about the experience and the people. So I would say that just focus a little bit to say, yes, you want a job, you want to pay off some bills and all this kind of stuff, but what kind of life do you want? Because you get one crack at this life. And I would really enjoy, especially the 20s and 30s are such formative years where you really got to embrace those years. So I would enjoy every moment, and I would think about your life versus a job. And I got too caught up in making money and getting promoted, and it worked for a while, but it wasn't deep. You know what I mean?
It's hard to believe we are drawing to a close, and this has just gone by so quickly. Bob, this has truly been a masterclass. I hope our students are going to mine this for the content that you've shared this evening. I know I've been taking notes. I see Katrina has been taking notes, but thank you for investing in us here at Northwood University and benefiting from your leadership. We really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And to wrap things up, we have the amazing Katrina Ness. She is a student from Birmingham, Michigan, and she's an automotive marketing and management major and has recently been named as the general chair for the Northwood University International Auto Show 2025.
I saw
So
that.
please welcome Katrina Ness.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Stayhauer, for you and your wisdom, and as well as Mr. Kron for so generously sharing your thoughts and answering all of our questions as well. As I prepare for my career, I have a number of valuable takeaways from this evening, including what I'll always remember and kind of what you've said into don't get too sucked into your success in your career, but keep in mind of your values and what you want your life to look like, and not only your job. You recently said that at the end, and I think that's really important. And not only in the automotive industry, but also in just other industries inside of the business world as a whole. So I think all of us can take away things from that, and keeping our values and our objectives in life, and not just getting sucked into the success of our career. Something I learned is you really said treat your customers like guests, not just like customers. And I love to say, as an organization, it's so customer focused, but again, they're not customers. You see them as guests. They're not just a money flowing in. They're not just a sale that you can make, but treating them as you would like to be treated and as they would like to be treated, and as well as keeping that retention and gaining them in the future by treating them correctly. Thank you again for allowing us all to benefit from your insights. Mr. Kron, to commemorate your serving as a guest for Northwood's Leadership Insights, A View from the Helm, we now have a gift to show our appreciation for you.
Thanks, Katrina. Those were great remarks. A few things that I just wanted to share. Students, did you hear Bob use the phrase "make a difference" a few times? I did, and that's what we try to do here at Northwood: is go mad or go make a difference. I remember when I went to the DIP meeting, Bob, a young man sitting right over there, Colin. You remember Colin, just out in the parking lot? We connected, and you needed to take a selfie. And we did, so that I could go to the DIP meeting and for me to share just what a great experience that you have. And so if I could connect those couple of things, there's lots of talk about why does the university exist? Certainly there's the academic aspect. We want you to learn, but there's also the connections that we are trying to make for you, that we try to have a Northwood student. And look, you hear me say this publicly, that I love our students, because you don't even know how different you are. But in time, you will look back and say, maybe we were a special group. When we take you, and if we can somehow connect you to an organization or a company that I think has exactly the same value set, that is a magical moment for us. And the Rydell Group, not only they're hiring people like Colin, but there are a number of you going to NADA this year as a result of their commitment to find the best young talent in the country. And so I would encourage all of you, if not this moment, at another time, to reach out to Kelly and reach out to Bob, or just come up and start the conversation, because I'm absolutely convinced that if you fast forward in your life 20 or 25 years, you will have no regrets. Not so much the job or the money that you make, but that you have had the wisdom to connect the values that we see every day coming from you with a company that is so unique in the country today. So all of you online, I want to thank you for joining us, and all of you who joined here today. And the good news is, students, we have food for you. And so please join us for the reception. You might have a chance to speak with Kelly. Kelly, do you just raise your hand just so that you can in front, or Bob, either here or outside. And again, thanks for making the time on this cool evening. And hope you enjoyed what I think was just an absolutely incredible session. So thank you so much. And thanks again, Bob. Thanks, everybody.